Hello. Can you hear me? Pete, can you hear me? Peter. 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 Yeah, boy. Peter. Peter. Pete. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I am talking to you.
Good morning, Cubs and Cardinals fans. We're back. It's Saturday. You knew we were going to be here. Saturday, April 27th. Thanks for being patient with us while we work through a couple of technical issues. Welcome to the Team of Rivals podcast. Ron is up. He's awake. His camera's working this week. And you can follow us on social media, Team of Rivals Pod. And for those of you who prefer to watch the show, we also post to YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. And once we work out the streaming issues, we'll also be streaming live on the Fuel Sports Network. That's what was keeping us off air for a couple of minutes, but promise we will get it fixed in the next week. You obviously saw it if you were here right at the launch. You saw it in the initial opening stream. We got to get a GCS video, Ron. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to turn this off. I'm going to stop being the only one on the screen.
Okay.
We got to get a Gateway City Sports little streamer as well.
Derek had made one. I'm surprised we didn't use that.
I don't think I've got it, but we will. No worries.
How did you get a hold of it? How did you get a hold of it, by the way?
How did I get a hold of what? Fuel?
That little video that you was showing and then not showing.
Arlington sent it to us.
Okay.
He gave me two of them. You want to see them? We can run them again. Here we go.
No. I don't want to see.
There you go. You got that one, and then you got this one. We might have to steal some of the little fan art that showed up on Twitter X yesterday when we sent out that post, because there were some nice moving visuals for Team of Rivals. We might have to throw our theme music under that and have
Derek told me where he got that made at, and he actually does have a Gateway one that I'm a big fan of. But for Arlington, Derek, whoever the hell's listening, you now you know why I don't do live stream anymore. Not only do I have a face for maybe just a microphone, but it is an extreme pain in the ass. It's a level of anxiety that nobody needs. So anyway, just my opinion on it.
We'll get it worked out, and once we do, it's going to be great.
Okay.
Hey, look, we were trying
on my side of the mic and enjoy it.
We were trying to make it happen in about 12 hours. With 7 days, it'll get all fixed. It'll be just in time for Elliott to join us again, because living up to his title as a permanent occasional guest host and number one dad, Elliott once again not on the show this week.
That's okay.
Yeah,
he's got dad duties right now. I know what's his son playing soccer? That's what he's
Soccer,
doing?
I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think, which obviously leads into show content because
Mhm.
we'll be doing Ron's Soccer Minute later on. Did you
Ooh,
happen to hit record, by the way, on
I
your
did.
end?
I did.
Oh, you're brilliant because I forgot.
Tap your microphone.
Not
It ain't
enough?
coming through that one. So if you played intro music, I don't think anybody heard it.
Oh, that's
It works
funny.
better. It works better on my end because if I'm going to put this together, it's better that you didn't have the music playing. So switch your microphone.
There we go.
And now you know why I don't live stream anymore.
Yeah, it's funny because you have so many source inputs that say that they're using various things, and one of them said that it was using me, but the other one didn't.
Well, you sound much better.
Doesn't
now.
matter. You're recording. We're all good.
We're all good. Okay, well, let's get on with the content because nobody wants to hear about these two old guys on a Saturday morning they're doing this shit way too early. They want to hear about what the show is supposed to be talking about. My guess.
Which is Star Wars.
We haven't done that for a while. So notice my background. I got to get out of this room.
We are going to talk Star Wars.
Okay, cool. We are.
Ron's happy. Ron's glad he got up in the morning.
Well, I mean, you have to. You tell me why, maybe off air, but we haven't done it for a while.
No, I'll tell you why on air, but I'm not going to tell you why right now because that's not what's important. What's
Okay.
important is that the Cubs are up, and yet they still trail the Brewers because somehow the Brewers keep winning. But more importantly, I wouldn't say that the Cardinals are down. They're just kind of treading water at this point. They haven't gotten worse. So, I mean, that's a positive. They're still 2 games under 500, which is where we were a week ago.
Positive largely depends on who you ask.
Yes, I know. Trying to give you a reason for hope, Ron. I mean, you're not the Pirates. How would you like to be a Pirates fan? You get all excited by the way they just roared out of the gate this year. And in a matter of weeks, they've suddenly fallen to 4th in the division, and they're a game below 500.
Pretty sure anybody above the age of 12 has been here before with the Pirates, and so they're fine. They're fine. They're right on brand.
All right, Ron. So
Yep.
if we were to ask the overreacting Cardinals fans on Twitter and Facebook, X and Facebook.
I don't know. I have them all muted. So
yeah, I know, but I know that you can channel them accurately.
Yeah.
How are things going in the Lou?
You wouldn't be talking about Jordan Walker being sent down, would you? Again?
I mean, Jordan Walker being sent down, Miles Michaelis just basically throwing batting practice when he's supposed to be starting games. I don't know if anybody's made it clear to him that he is pitching in Major League Baseball games and not throwing batting practice.
I'm going to steal.
Spring training has ended.
I'm going to have to steal a quote from Bernie Miklasz. Once in a while, I have his podcast on the phone. I can't listen to it every day, but I did catch a little bit of an episode this week following the Steven Matz start, which went swimmingly well. He got shelled, right? But the post-game presser, and I try to be like, if I'm the manager of them and I'm having to answer questions game after game after game, especially last year. Last year must have been a test for anybody's sanity, having to talk to the press after every game last year. But this year he decides to lead in by just saying, "Yeah, I thought Matz threw really well, despite the box score." And Bernie states, "Well, that's good that he's throwing well. Batting practice pitchers throw pretty well, so I think that kind of lays it out." Yeah, Matz was throwing batting practice, but at least he was throwing batting practice well. Just problem is, it was with the other team. It's just it's seeing things like that after a game. I mean, on the one hand, you're like, you can't really believe what you're saying, and we know you don't believe what you're saying. I don't think. It's just irritating. It's irritating, but then the flip side of that is I try to understand what they must be going through game after game to have to field those questions, because you can't sit there and throw your guys under the bus and trash them while internally you probably want to. You're not going to. So it's got to be a tough gig.
So let me ask you something else, your perspective on this, and it's kind of related to it. Obviously, there were stories that ran this week about how Cardinals ticket sales are down again.
Yeah.
What do you think? Some people are trying to rationalize it, saying, it's the vagaries of the early season schedule, the weather is an issue. Do you think that's what it is? Do you think that it's the opponents that they're playing, too many weekday games, or do you think that this is a continuation of Cardinals fans being fed up from last year?
Well, it certainly wasn't something we were talking about 8 years ago, 7 years ago, not even 5 years ago, right? It is a continuation of last year, I believe. Now, I'll state the same case that I did last year. Were there some days that were weather related? Maybe it was during school's still in right now. So if it's a weekday game, you're going to run the risk of having a lot less fans there just because, hey, look, kids are in school, or I'm at my job. But we weren't talking like that years ago, just a few years ago. I think a lot of it is a continuation of last year. My tune hasn't changed. St. Louis is not like a massive metropolitan area where I can jump in a Uber, jump on a train, or just walk to the ballpark, right? Yes, it's a city, but they don't have like millions of fans that are within proximity, right? Close proximity to the ballpark. So you pull from the other side of the river, other places in Missouri, Arkansas, and those that's a few hours road trip. You're not going to go and spend your time doing that to watch how they were playing last year and at times how they played this year. You're just not going to do it. Weekend might be a different story, but you're not doing that during the week anymore. You're only sacrificing that time during the week if you're going to be entertained and if you're going to watch a good product. And if you're not getting that, you're not making that sacrifice, especially during the week. And that's what we're looking at. They haven't been that fun to watch. Their offense has been pretty bad. So there's just no excitement. Are you going to drive somewhere for 2-3 hours to be bored for 2 hours and then drive back for 2-3 hours? No, you're not. That's my theory.
Yeah, I can't say that I disagree. Right.
You asked me about X and social media fans. Sorry, I don't think I really answered that. I think a lot of them probably feel like I do. Frustration with the front office. Obviously, that continues. It's been an ongoing thing for maybe 5 or 6 years now, like heavily. It's kind of unfair to predict what X fans are thinking because I have most of the ones that annoy the shit out of me are muted. But they've probably gone through their typical thing. I think the crazy ones have done exactly what they do to themselves every year. That Victor Scott has finally arrived. He's going to propel us into the playoffs. Year before, Jordan Walker has arrived. He's going to propel us into the playoffs. The next Albert Pujols. Oh, Dylan Carlson has arrived. He's going to be the Jim Edmonds we never had. So it's a continuous. They're still doing that to themselves.
And you would think that you would learn, right? And also I've seen Cubs fans struggle with it as well, especially when you see a guy jump from AA to AAA.
And then hardly
from AA to the majors. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at how many guys who thrive at AAA. The one who immediately comes to mind for the Cubs is Matt Mervis. They thrive at AAA, and when they get to the majors, they struggle. I mean, that's the definition of a 4A player, right? That guy who you're always like, oh, this year he's going to figure it out. And it's clear that the difference between AAA and the majors is big. So to expect the kid to come up from AA, probably in his early 20s, and make that leap to the majors and be a star is incredibly rare. It didn't happen for Mike Trout. Mike Trout struggled when he first came up. So, the Cubs are experiencing it, have experienced it with Christopher Morel, with Nico Hoerner a little bit. It's very rare that you see those guys like Albert Pujols who come and are immediately impactful and never really have those struggles. And I think that when we do see those kind of players, we get spoiled and we think, oh, this is going to happen for everybody.
Yep. Certainly before this most recent wave of rookies that they've tried to call up and tried to get the stick, we didn't run to those problems very often, where guys are up, down, up, down. Boy, I tell you, since 2016, 17, we've seen nothing but that, right? Very few of them have come up and stuck. Look at what's happening with Jackson Holiday out in Baltimore.
Yeah.
He just got sent down to probably, I don't know. I don't know Baltimore's situation well enough, but yeah, maybe shouldn't have done that. Last year when you look at Walker's early success, you look at how he played in spring training, you're like, okay, this doesn't feel too bad. Maybe this is the right move. And, for whatever reason, he couldn't, he actually looks a little bit worse this year. I don't know. Maybe it's a seasonal thing with these guys. Paul Goldschmidt's on his, so this is an even year. So he started off like shit. And the hope for him is that he returns to the mean and gets, returns to his mean here pretty soon and has a great second half. But I don't know. The age is not on his side at this point. So a lot of skeptics that are like, well, he's too old. He's too old to recover. This is who he is now. Whatever. I'll agree with you for in August.
And Nolan Arenado hasn't looked good out of the box either.
Early on, he's looked a little better. He's looked a little bit better. Yeah, for those first couple of weeks were pretty rough for him too. And again, with him, it looked like a continuation of 2023. Just a frustrated player.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Cardinal social media is going to do what they do, and I'm going to do what I do, Pete, or at least what I do now, and I ignore it.
I wonder about Nolan Arenado. Like, it kind of seems like this is the first time that he's really encountered any kind of adversity and been under scrutiny.
With his own play. Yeah.
With his own play. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. With the team. I mean, obviously he played in Colorado. Of course he encountered adversity there. But yeah, with his own play, and he's under far more scrutiny in St. Louis than he was in Colorado. And not necessarily that Cardinals fans weren't supportive of him, but I'm sure he raised his own expectations when he landed in St. Louis, regardless of whether or not he was hearing it from anyone. You got to think that when you land somewhere where the expectation is that the team is going to play better baseball and that the players are going to play better baseball, you raise your own expectations, right? It's one thing to not play well in Cincinnati because nobody expects you to play well in Cincinnati. And honestly, there aren't enough people to care in Cincinnati. But when you land in St. Louis or New York, Chicago, LA, just to name a few of those rabid baseball cities, if you don't live up to your own expectations and the team's not playing well, I mean, it's just got to compound. And I kind of wonder if that isn't what has been happening with Nolan Arenado the last year, is that he's feeling the self-imposed pressure, not necessarily that he's getting it from the fans or that he's getting it from the front office, but that he's placing it on himself. Like, I was brought here, to kind of be that final piece and to show this team how to win. And we've done nothing but lose since I got here. So
yeah, I think
what am I doing wrong?
He got there in 21, 22. They had a pretty good year, but differences too. You had a little bit different mix. You had that veteran presence. You had Pujols back. You still had Molina. Something to be said for not having those guys around anymore either, right? Like, yep. It does have an impact. I know people don't think it does because one player was over 40, one was near 40, and that's all gross. To a 20-year-old,
right?
These guys are almost dead. What are they doing here? Where's Ivan Herrera? Sorry, not sorry to any of you, any and all of you.
So if we go up to the other end of I-55, the Cubs continue, as I said in the lead-in, Cubs continue to be up. They're still a half game back of the Brewers, but they're playing well. They've won, 4 of their last 10. But they're, they certainly shouldn't have split the series with the Marlins, but still they're playing well. I'm sorry, not 4 of their last 10, 7 of their last 10. They're 7-3, which matches the Brewers. And they're doing this. I mean, lots of cause for optimism for Cubs fans because they're doing this largely without their biggest names in the lineup. Justin Steele still on the DL. Seiya Suzuki's going to be out for a while.
When's Steele due back?
He just had a rehab start down in Arizona after he threw batting practice. The rehab start, I believe, was yesterday. And so the hope is that he feels as good today as he did after he threw batting practice earlier in the week. And if that's the case, then the thought is that he'll go out and pitch 1 or 2 minor league games and then be back. So they're talking possibly mid-May.
Well, whoever was pitching for Boston last night was throwing batting practice. And
he's did you watch that game? Because he's been Boston's best pitcher.
I watched the roundup this morning, the quick replay of most of the game. Some of them I'm not sitting there watching.
Yeah, I know.
Seattle and whoever, like whatever, I'm fast forwarding past this. But I did notice your new pitcher. He got bit by Tyler O'Neill.
I know. And that was always the concern anyway with Shota Imanaga, is because he apparently in Japan, he liked to pitch up. But obviously it's a different game in Japan than it is here. And the concern was how many home runs is, because he apparently was like one of the league leaders in home runs surrendered in Japan. So the concern was if he's not able to get that 4-seamer elevated enough, major league pitchers are going to feast on him. Mm-hmm. And so far they haven't. And I don't know how Tyler O'Neill hit that one, because that was not in the zone, or if it was right on the upper outside corner. And he still managed to tag that one and send it out.
Well, it's that physique, man. He can it can be a bad pitch, but when you got muscles on muscles.
That's right.
That's right. All the looks in the middle.
And you're right. I mean, Cutter, whatever his name is for Boston. I mean, he's been good this year. Going into the game, I think he had a .88 ERA, but the Cubs played some whitey ball on him. I don't know if you saw all the highlights, but they were stealing bases.
Yep, I did.
There was a safety squeeze. You have no idea how excited I was when Dansby Swanson came home on a safety squeeze from Pete Crow Armstrong. I leapt off the couch. I was so happy, so excited to see that happen.
You had that 27-year-old male Cubs fan just freaking out in his apartment.
Yeah. You just gave away an out.
You threw away your chance to put one over the fence.
Yeah, and we won 7-1. Shut up.
Now they won't.
Although I have to say, last night's game did give me an opportunity to show the lad Mark McGwire's home run derby performance at Fenway Park in, I think it was 99, the 13 home run. He was suitably impressed. He asked where the seats were on top of the wall, because we had just been watching the game and saw the seating that's there. And then he was
just there at that time, right?
No, it wasn't. It was still just a wall. That was pre-Theo. And he was impressed by what McGwire did with the home runs. He's like, did he really just hit that one out onto the turnpike? I said,
the only time I've and ballparks typically open a couple hours before first pitch, so you catch the tail end of the home team usually in batting practice, and then the visiting team comes out and they do their batting practice. But on 2 occasions I saw McGwire that year in '98. So I'm out in San Diego. Sure, it should give it away of why I was in San Diego. It's the first time I've seen like almost at least half the stadium was full just to watch batting practice. And that was a trend that happened that year. It's the first time I've ever seen families with children scurrying out of the way of line drive home runs. It was pretty incredible. I remember a dad yanking both of his kids out of the way because there was one just coming at him in the bleachers. It was quite the spectacle.
Nice.
Then,
hey, speaking of home runs, Pete Crow Armstrong, Cubs' #1 prospect, came back up this week because of a couple of cracked ribs from Cody Bellinger running into the wall. Caused a lot of angst last year at the end of the year when he was brought up, and he went 0 for the season and was still looking for his first major league hit. So he promptly gets called up by the Cubs and hits what turns out to be a game-winning home run into the stands in right field. And Dodgers, please take note, PCA met with the fan after the game, signed the bat that he hit the home run with. Not just signed a couple of bats, signed the bat that hit the home run in order to get the ball. So that's how it's done. LA, you guys need to take note. Maybe show that video to Shohei too. There
was I want to talk draft here in a little bit, but there's one story of one of the first round picks who gave his gloves when he was in college, gave his gloves to a kid that had a jersey on of the opposing team. That was a really good story. I don't know if you caught much of that draft. I think it was kind of, I don't know if it was right before the draft started or it was during, but yeah, pretty moving story because the kid lost his mom like 3 weeks before that. Oh. And so like they've connected now. So it's a cool story. But yes, Dodgers, that is how you do it. Even to opposing fans.
Yeah. Yeah. You shouldn't have needed an embarrassing public spectacle in order to know how to take care of a fan who has something that you want.
I just imagine they bring him into a dark room, just the light shining on your face.
Right.
Give one of those interrogations. Right.
Right. All right. I think the last baseball topic I can think of, unless you've got something, Ron. I don't know if you caught it. I did like and repost it on our Twitter account. I'm intrigued by it. You know, we've talked several times previously about teams like the Marlins, the Rays, the Reds needing to be relegated, right? Let's bring up some of these AAA teams. Let's give them something of an incentive. We like the way that the Premier League handles things in England. Mm-hmm. If you're so terrible that you finish bottom 2, you're gone. And we're going to bring up a couple teams from the Champions League.
Are you pivoting this to Max Scherzer?
I'm pivoting this to Max Scherzer. I love it. He wants umpires ranked and then relegated to AAA so in other words, he clearly has his eyes on Hunter Wendelstedt and Angel Hernandez. And I don't know, I'm sure you did. You caught what Hunter Wendelstedt managed to do in order to take the heat, I think, off of Angel Hernandez this week, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And you know, if I had thought about it, I would have loaded the video into the media, but I'm sure everybody who's watching us and listening to us has already seen it. But just in case you missed it, Hunter Wendelstedt, I think it was in the first inning of the game, he was already tired of Aaron Boone barking at him. And I think Aaron Boone has, if it's not the most, like the second most ejections over the last several years in Major League Baseball. You know, he's hot-tempered. He doesn't exactly have the best relationship with umpires. And so he tends to get thrown out of game slot. So he was barking at Hunter Wendelstedt at home plate early in the game this week. And Hunter told him, you say one more thing and you're gone. And the video, the Yes Network video stays on Aaron Boone, and you can see him go like this. Mm-hmm. And then he's literally looking at his nails. And all of a sudden you hear Hunter go, that's it, you're gone. And he's like, what did I do? And he's like, he's pointing around, and apparently a fan behind him said something to Hunter, and he tossed him. And Major League Baseball has done nothing.
Yeah,
they
that's
haven't
incredible.
Said anything. The Umpires Association hasn't said anything to defend the guy. They're just trying to sweep this thing under the rug. Like, seriously, what are you doing? Major League Baseball continues to stub its toe and open doors into its face and has not learned its lesson.
Yeah, this should be addressed. I mean, maybe there's nothing they could do about it at this point. I mean, he was already ejected from the game. That is ridiculous. It's been all over the internet at this point. Everybody's circling the fan who you can clearly see that fan barking at, I don't know, maybe he's doing an Aaron Boone impression and sounded like him. Who knows, right? But the fact that they haven't even addressed it is a little ridiculous. Like, how powerful is this umpires union? Man, it must be like extraordinary. There was another play. I was looking for it on my phone. Can't find it, but there was a call. I don't know if it was this week or the week before, but it's been out there too, floating around. I thought I'd send it to you guys, but first pitch of the game, I can't remember what game it was. And you hear the announcer calling it. First pitch of the game is a ball right down the middle. you hear the commentator just laughing his ass off. I mean, but we've seen so much of that this year. I mean, in a very short amount of time, we've seen highlight after highlight reel that people are putting together and throwing out there on social media of Angel Hernandez, prime target, right? What do you call, like 3 pitches in a row that were like 5-6 inches off the plate,
and each pitch got worse.
Just to ring the guy up, and then you start off the game with, I mean, literally thigh high, dead center of the plate, and ball one. I don't know.
It's funny too, because I was watching a game the other day, and Boog and JD were talking about it, and there was one pitch where it was a strike, right? Mm-hmm. But the catcher clearly got crossed up, and in adjusting to catch it, the ump ended up calling it a ball, right? Because he didn't frame it well, and also the catcher had to move. And JD was talking about it, and he was saying, when you get that movement, right, and you've set yourself up to have a line on the pitch, and when the catcher moves as he's going to receive the ball, and not in a way that you were expecting him to move, and clearly not in a way that he was expecting to move, it interrupts your line of sight. And so there are times where you can understand where an ump misses a call like that. But when you're set up, the pitch is delivered where it's supposed to be delivered, and you still blow the call. Yeah, you're right, Ron. I don't understand. I don't know how Major League Baseball doesn't fix this. And robot umps aren't necessarily going to address all of the issues, because things like throwing out a manager who didn't say anything, you can't fix that. And the fact that Hunter Wendelstedt has suffered no consequences for this, no suspension, no reprimand from Major League Baseball, nothing. It's just basically been ignored. Or if it hasn't been ignored, you have to let the fans know that it's been addressed, even if it was. We've spoken with Hunter about the incident, and this matter has been settled. At least that, but you can't just ignore it, because all it does is it feeds talk like this, and it feeds the frustration of fans with umpires, and it's not going to help things in the stadiums, because immediately fans are going to go in suspecting that the umps have something against their team.
Yeah, it's a very human thing, right? Like, I see it, I know you see it. Why can't we just talk about it? That's the frustration. And what's wrong with, New York, who's supposed to be on standby for any replay call? What's wrong with them, getting in Hunter's earpiece and just say, "Hey, dude, you got that wrong. Just FYI, Aaron didn't say anything. It was that fan behind the dugout." And why can't that call be reversed? Like, what's the consequence of reversing it? What's the Supreme Court ruling that says once you wave your hand that a player's out of the game, there's nothing you can do to put him back in? Like, it's just, to me, it's a little silly.
Yeah, I agree. Why aren't you allowed to make a mistake?
Yeah, they should be. I mean, they should be. And as far as the robot umpires, I've seen plenty of replays of this at this point where, and I like how it works too. Batter doesn't agree with the call, taps his helmet, and within seconds they get the right call made. I don't know why Major League Baseball, if they're doing all this other shit, putting ghost runners on, why can't you review that? And why can't you review check swings?
Oh God, yeah. I think part of the reason why they don't allow the review of check swings is because it's so subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's not a definition of other than offered at the pitch, but what does that mean?
Yeah. I want to play a clip here. I know we're getting off the baseball topic here, because I have a feeling we're going to jump to the football. I sent this to you guys, but I think it's worth playing on here. Make sure the sound is off. It doesn't fire up right away. This is a call from your announcer. I hate Instagram videos because you can't freeze them. Sent this to you guys, though, and I love it. Harry Carey and Steve Stone.
Places that you meet good-looking and interesting women. The libraries, they say, this is supposed to be a matter of fact, the libraries are number one on the list.
Well, it's surprising you say that, Harry, because on the off days, Arnie Harris and I frequently go to the various libraries around the major cities that we visit. She was at the library.
We met her at the library yesterday, didn't we? Of all the...
I love that. Well, I sent you guys the clip. There's a video that accompanies it, and at the very end, there's some, blonde with a tank top in the stands.
And not enough credit given to Arnie Harris over the years for prompting that, because Arnie was legendary among Cubs fans.
Yeah. For
scanning the stands for attractive, relatively scantily clad women.
Yep.
Nowadays that would not fly.
No, it wouldn't fly. And it was funny because I remember a couple of these, they'd freeze on some woman in the stands, and they wouldn't, and you just hear silence for a while, and all of a sudden you'd hear Harry going like that, and then it was coming after that. So yeah, those are the good old days.
Because probably Harry and Steve were dealing with something else, weren't paying attention to the monitor in front of them. And it was when Harry's attention came back to the monitor.
Right.
And Arnie was absolutely baiting them with that. He was just waiting for them to see it so that they would say something. And they couldn't resist. I mean, how are you not going to comment on what Arnie's putting up on the live feed?
You young people don't know what you missed.
There were good times. And my son couldn't believe it when I showed him video of, God, I'm blanking on her name right now, but the ball girl for the Cubs.
Yeah. She was a
before obviously she posed in Playboy and then could no longer hold her job. But for those of you who don't remember or who never experienced it, the Cubs used to have a ball girl. God, what was her name? Marla Collins. Marla Collins used to sit not too far behind the umpire. Now, the stands weren't as close to the ump at Wrigley Field as they are now, but still, she wasn't that much further back. How she never caught a foul ball to the face is beyond me. But when you watch the WGN broadcast of a game, not even WGN, any game, she was in frame. That's how directly behind the batter and the umpire she was. She was always there, just sitting there watching the game in her short shorts.
Yep. Remember those shorts?
That's right. They were Daisy Dukes. They really were.
They weren't
good.
And I think those were her long shorts.
I think they were. I think you're right. All right, Ron, you mentioned it. I think we've exhausted baseball. You mentioned it. Could you be more pleased with how the Bears draft has gone thus far?
Not really at all. I know months ago, I thought, well, maybe they hold on to Fields and grab Harrison Jr., with that first pick. And I felt at the time, like, okay, Fields is getting a little bit better. Maybe he's figuring things out. They made their decision a while ago now and sent him to Pittsburgh. So given that, I couldn't be happier with how they've come out. They've, picked up probably the best player available. And hopefully when you draft a quarterback 3 times in the last 7 years in the first round, maybe the third time's a charm. But this, when you looked at shots of, the Bears staff when they had made this pick and then when they got Rome at pick number 9, there's a confidence that this front office group, starting with Ryan Poles, kind of gives us as fans a level of confidence that I don't think we've had in Bears management for quite a while. I'm not going to do what Cardinals fans do every year and get myself overexcited. But yes, finishing I couldn't have hoped for a better round 1. I think it was very, very good.
Yeah.
And how smart did they look for that trade last year?
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit of luck there that Carolina was so bad, right? But couldn't have worked out better.
But still, what they managed to parlay it into, right? Because it's not just DJ Moore and Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm.
It's DJ Moore and Caleb Williams and Jaquan Brisker. And I'm blanking on another name. And they still have Carolina's second round pick next year.
Yeah.
So
it ain't over yet. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not done. It's not done. Yeah, this has been impressive. And, to come out, all the pundits seem to agree to come out with not just 2 first round picks and not just 2 picks in the top 9, but to have come out of it with for a lot of pundits, 2 of the top 5 players in this draft is remarkable. And then yesterday they went in the 3rd round and they added an offensive tackle out of Yale. And normally you're like, offensive tackle out of Yale, whatever. But reading up on him, this kid, Karan Amagaji, I hope I pronounced it right. I'm sure we're going to learn how to pronounce it in the years ahead, but he's actually a local product. I'm sure I saw him play because his alma mater, Hinsdale Central, plays against the school that I work for. But apparently he has all the measurables, and a lot of people are saying that had he wanted to, he could have transferred to a Power 5 conference his senior year. Mm-hmm. And had he not torn a hamstring muscle 4 games into the season this past season, he probably would have been rated higher up, but the injury caused some people to question him. And Everybody seems to be liking the Bears pick of him as, at the very least, a swing tackle or possibly interior lineman. And also, if everything goes well, he may push Braxton Jones for starting time at left tackle, which, I mean, Braxton Jones wasn't bad at left tackle. So if you could take last year's starting left tackle and move him inside, the Bears offense has the potential to be formidable. I agree with you. I'm not gonna get excited until we actually see it. But on paper,
It's promising.
the Bears should have. There should be some optimism
That's what
surrounding
you're
the
hearing.
Bears' ability to score a touchdown this year.
You're hearing that they, on paper right now, they should have a pretty elite offense. One of the top 5.
And quite possibly the best wide receivers room in the NFL. And that's not me saying it. It's been several people who have been saying their wide receivers room should be ridiculous.
I'll admit that when that 9th pick came up, I'm like, oh, they probably do need a lineman. They probably do. And that might be where they go. And I'm not going to be upset if they do that. But when they got Odunze, I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
That's it.
When he was still available and they grabbed him, I'm like, holy shit. All right. Well, they didn't badly need another receiver, but the fact that they had one that was this skilled available and they went ahead and did it, I was pretty thrilled.
And that he's going to be able, not only that they got a skilled receiver, right? Like, if I'm a Cardinals fan, I am absolutely thrilled that we got Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
But the Bears get Odunze, who led the league in yardage last year and who is considered one of the top 3 wide receivers in this year's draft. And descriptions are, had it been any other year, he probably would have been the first wide receiver selected.
Yeah.
But he gets to learn. He gets to play with 2 already elite NFL receivers in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And I like it that he's been kind of working with those guys already anyway.
Yeah.
And Williams has already thrown him a few passes. So that worked out, I didn't know any of that before the pick was made. I don't know what Atlanta was. I get what Atlanta was maybe thinking, but I'm glad they did what they did.
This has shades, and it's funny that he is now in Atlanta. This has shades of what Ryan Pace did to Mike Glennon.
Uh-huh.
Right? You bring Glennon in on a big old contract, and then you go ahead and you draft his replacement. You don't even tell him about it. Mike Glennon found out at the draft party.
Yeah. Sounds like Kirk Cousins did too.
Yeah. They called Kirk Cousins. The reporting is they called Kirk Cousins as the pick was going in.
Oh, shit.
But you know what, Kirk? You can use your $100 million to dab your tears.
Right. I mean, financially, he's going to be doing fine, but that still doesn't matter. It's still probably like, wait a minute. Didn't we just agree to okay. So now you want me to be a quarterback's coach too, to my replacement. Cool. I just want to go out and win next year.
Hey, that's a well-paid quarterback's coach, man.
I guess so.
I understand the concern because he's coming back from an injury and he's in his mid-30s, but still, you got to give the guy the courtesy of, hey, we have an opportunity.
If he's available, we're going to take him, kind of
right.
thing. Right.
Yeah. You should. Yeah. I think probably the thing that's most concerning about it is that Penix is an older prospect, right? He's 24, I believe it is. So that would make you think that there's going to be more of an imperative to get him in if there's an opportunity, rather than, if you had just drafted a kid who was, say, 21 or 22, you might be a little bit more patient, a little bit more reticent to put him out on the football field because you want to give him a chance. But hey, this kid's 24. He's already lost, quote unquote, 2 years in the NFL. We need to make hay while the sun is shining with him.
So by age 26, you might feel more of the pressure. Like, we better start using our first round number 8 pick.
That's right.
We better. And so it was a surprise, and it's a surprise to everybody, not just us, that they made that choice. But I'm glad they did. Not saying they would have gone after Rome, but to me that would have been a pick that would have made a lot more sense to me in terms of Atlanta than bringing in Penix Jr. But hey, you know what? Thank you, ATL.
Maybe they just couldn't resist the inevitable dick jokes, because that at some point
there have been
the next month, if not already.
It doesn't matter. Penix is That's one there, but the one that's been all over the news has been in court this week, and that would be David Pecker. We won't go there, but that.
Well, and how appropriate that he runs a National Enquirer, right? Or he used to, anyway. Right? All right, Ron. The last thing
There's
I
David
promised
Pecker, head of the paper.
That's right. So I warned in the description before we launched, and Ron, I teased you with it.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some news this week that might bring me back to the light side. But first,
I didn't see this. Did you send
but
the
first, so
description?
there are two Star Wars related rumors in the news this week. Obviously, you didn't catch them. The one is that Jon Favreau is frustrated with the way that things have gone with Disney. And the reports are either that he's just expressed his frustration, but he's working on Mando and Grogu, or that he's done, that he's frustrated, he's expressed his concerns, he's not being listened to, and he's had enough and he's out. He's going to wrap up his existing commitments and then he's done with Star Wars. That's troubling.
Yeah, I don't like that.
If that's true, it's going to make it even harder for me to come back. I've already expressed all of my frustrations with Disney Star Wars. But the one that I heard actually this morning, there's a rumor that the reason that George Lucas threw his support behind, what's his name? I can't stand him
Filoni?
right now. No. The head of Disney.
Iger.
Thank you, Bob Iger.
God,
The reason that he threw his support behind Bob Iger in the proxy fight and kept Nelson Peltz and opposed Nelson Peltz getting a couple of seats on the board is because Iger basically came to Lucas hat in hand and said, George, you're a huge shareholder. I need your support so that I can keep this guy off. And that it basically gave George all the leverage. The rumor is that George said, you want my support? I want back in.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be something there, wouldn't it?
And the rumor is that George Lucas is coming back to Star Wars, possibly heading up a live series. Ron, if that happens, I might have to end my boycott. Regardless of whether or not KK is still employed by Disney and is still in charge of Lucasfilm, if George Lucas is heading up a Star Wars project, I think I have to give it another shot.
If Bob came to him like that, agreed to it after George delivered that demand in George's way, imagine the only sound you heard once the phone conversation ended was clear my throat. More money for daddy.
I am so clipping that. I am adding that to the soundboard.
I don't think I have that sound of his call into our text, our voicemail line. I think I still have that somewhere. I'll dig that up.
That was brilliant. Yeah, I mean that would be an exciting development. The one thing I would say is if I was George, I would want that in writing. Because the last time that they had a handshake agreement, a verbal understanding,
they didn't follow through on any of it.
They didn't follow through because the story is that there was an understanding that Disney was going to use George's notes and George's treatments for Star Wars moving forward, and they promptly filed those in the circular file.
And then they went down the path they went.
That's right. But if George is back,
damn near killed me. I recovered, but killed you.
Yeah.
Eventually. I did have
but hey, as we know from Disney Star Wars, nobody ever dies in the Star Wars universe. So I could be back just like the Emperor.
Not even me, you son of a bitch. Yeah, he's gonna be back. He'll be back long after he's gone. He's gonna be in that whatever that Emperor's chair was with the tubes that held him up. It's gonna be George.
Somebody right now is working on that gif.
It's funny because I did have a few minutes of The Force Awakens on last night. I still enjoy that parts of it. It's just knowing what comes after because kind of dampen that a bit, my spirit a bit on that one. And I still have out of all the things that were screwed up, I still have my probably irrational to some people frustration with why First Order stormtroopers were just not clones.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. I don't understand that one, but whatever.
Well, and the worst part about it, right? And we've expressed this frustration ad nauseum is the storytelling outside of the story. And it's like, well, then why didn't you just tell that? Don't explain stuff after the fact. Tell it within the story. Yeah. And a lot of that has happened with Star Wars is, oh, well, this is what has always been. You didn't address that in the movie.
Well, and there are some obvious things too, Pete. Here, we go to one example. You also don't have to explain things all the time.
True.
Sometimes it's fun for fans to try to figure things out on their own. Boba Fett was way cooler.
Yes.
Before the book of Boba Fett. And way cooler even before Attack of the Clones when it was revealed, kind of his origin, right? Like he was way cooler when we didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's okay. I don't need a backstory.
Preferable.
Did not need the Han Solo backstory, although I do enjoy parts of that movie. I didn't need that.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember talking with friends coming into Solo. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, if they hit these things, right? If they hit the Kessel Run, if they hit how he met Chewie, if they hit how he won the Falcon from Lando, I'm going to be happy. We got all of that. I wasn't happy.
and what a I guess a okay use of Woody Harrelson, but Paul Bettany.
Well, but that was not the original intention for that character.
Right. Its character was supposed to be something completely different.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a lot of CGI, right?
Right.
I believe that's what it was.
Yeah. Budgeting problems.
Shocking that Lucasfilm under Disney has run into budgeting problems. It seems to be kind of a through line.
There was no such thing as a budget when Daddy ran the show.
No, that's right. Daddy just did what Daddy wanted to do, and printed money.
Yeah,
Daddy knew what he was doing. He could spend as much as he wanted because he was printing money, and Disney has not managed to do that.
Yeah, and if Daddy ran the show, we would have had Force Awakens in 2015, The Last Jedi in 2018, and Episode 9 would have been in 2021.
And
we would have had Solo if we would have ever had a Solo.
Right. And they would have told the storyline that carried through.
Mm-hmm. And there'd be shit that we don't like.
If he had killed Solo, it would have been respectful of the character.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Episode 7 would have focused around the core three before transitioning into another generation. He would not have done what they did with those three.
No, and a storyline that could have been super interesting, like Finn's.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have died. It wouldn't have instantly died in The Last Jedi. Like, what an uninteresting story he had after that, right? Could have been way better.
Yep. All right, listen, I got to get the boy a haircut. And we've already been on here about an hour.
Yeah, we have. I guess 55 minutes what we're coming up on.
It doesn't feel like an hour.
It's pretty good because you squeezed as much baseball as I had out of me.
Good. And, maybe one of these Saturdays, Elliott will join us. And then you and I will have to carry the show less.
Yeah, it's tough.
We'll have to carry the show still. Elliott, we're looking forward to you joining us. Although we know that you're not going to watch this, we also know that you're not going to listen to this because, as he has admitted many times, all he does is show up, record, and then he just walks away.
He's got the greatest gig.
He does. He doesn't have to worry about it. He doesn't have to think about it.
And that show you said, Elliott's your show. I don't know. But he doesn't show his emotions all that well, but I saw fear. I saw fear when you said he thought you meant he's going to have to lead in with everything. The reads, all of it. And I saw genuine fear for the first time ever. We need to figure out how to do that again.
Yeah, I know. I was just waiting for him to say that he wasn't afraid. You will be.
He wasn't showing anything except, are you serious? I'm not doing that. I got mic problems and his mic cuts out,
Yep.
You figure out something like that.
Oh no, my camera doesn't work anymore. Sorry, guys.
No.
I guess you're gonna have to take the show. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to do the same. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. We also occasionally live stream on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. And once we get it figured out, we'll be streaming on Fuel Sports, which means it will also be on Amazon Fire and Roku. So that's exciting. Be sure to check out the other Gateway City and Fuel Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show, the X-Fan Show, Talking Sports on the Bleachers with Don Glenn, and our favorite, oh my God, I almost blew it, Ron Soccer
waiting
Minute.
for it.
I almost forgot. Oh my God. Okay, we're on for at least a minute more because it's time for Ron's Soccer Minute. Ron.
Kind of a bummer this week because it's a bye week. So now I got to figure out what I'm going to do on my Saturday night when I cannot watch City. It's their bye week. So they don't play again until next weekend with Houston. Last week was another draw. They have 6 draws. It was with Sporting Kansas City, but it was an exciting game. At least this draw had some drama to it. It ended up in a 3-3 tie. For those that might not know what draw means, a tie, it's the same thing. So they walk away with a point. They were at Kansas City. That's their rival in MLS. They're on the other side of the state. Sporting KC had a pretty good run in the MLS Cup at the end of last year. Knocked City out of it in the first round. So it was a good point to pick up on the road. And they scored 3 goals. Goal scoring has been a little bit of their issue this year. Wasn't last year, but it has been this year. But they came back with 3. And I'd say, it ended that week on a good note. Sam Adeniran, who's been away from the team, has now resumed training with the team. For those of you that don't know or maybe don't care, Sam Adeniran is one of their strikers. Exciting player, a little raw, but he's got a lot of ability. I think old coach Carnell didn't like the effort he was putting in training and practice, and basically sent him away from the team to train on his own for a few weeks to figure things out. So he's back with the team now. So hopefully that will help up front. He's a great player to put in there in the last 30 minutes. He provides a lot. So we'll see. Houston Dynamo's up next. Then it's Chicago Fire. I will be at that game at City Park. Cannot wait.
Nice.
Yep. Even got my wife a jersey.
Oh, she's not going to get to steal yours?
She would be swimming in mine. I did have to upgrade in size because I've upgraded in size myself. So I've got a new one. I got her one just like it with her favorite player on the back. She's a big fan of Roman Berkey, the St. Louis goaltender. And I think not only she liked the skill, I'm pretty sure she likes the way he looks too. So there you have it.
Well, as we know with her previous experience with Randall Gritchick, skill isn't always the primary motivator for Mrs. Nuttall.
Sometimes it's the features and the jawline.
That's right.
My jawline is disappearing.
Well, we can't wait to hear this week's episode of At the Park as you discuss what you did do. No. There has to be one. We need to know what you did on Saturday night when there was no game to watch. Please.
I'll probably just post that out on social media. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do.
You know what you could do? You could just cut the last 2 minutes and you could just post that.
Maybe. Yeah, I probably should. That would be fine. Yeah,
that would be great. That would be beautiful.
Okay.
All right. So you can catch that. Obviously, that's the last of our usual feature for Gateway City and Fuel Sports Network at the Park, STL. You can find Elliott. Well, not here, but you can find him on X at TR_Elliott, and you can find Ron at
TR_Ron75. Elliott's wandering around some soccer field in Illinois. I'm not sure which one. If you want to find him, you can go hunting.
Just look in the sandwich area. He'll be the one holding the Truly or some other.
And I imagine some kind of golf hat.
Probably. I would imagine so.
Yeah.
You can find Gateway City at Gateway City SPRT, and you can find Fuel at Fuel_SN. Finally, get in touch with us at any social media channel at Team Arrivals Pod. That's it. We're out of here. Ron, have a great week. I'm sure we'll talk in the meantime, and hopefully we'll get this streaming thing figured out in time for next week, next Saturday morning.
Oh, let's do that. We'll have maybe a practice round. It was funny watching the text go back and forth and not having to do anything about it. That was different. But anyway, also for those of you that don't follow the MLS podcast out there, I do have a Twitter account on there. It's at the Park STL. Go look that up and just follow it, even if you don't care about soccer. I just want you to. Pete, thanks for taking us out. And unlike you, what you didn't get in the beginning, here's some exit music for y'all. See y'all next week. Love you all so much. Bye-bye. I know nobody could hear that at the end.